Hey everybody, I hope you can hear and see me. I may need a little bit of help with that, which is a little bit of a thumbs up. There's one person here, and if you can hear me, because we just started, I want to get the audio right. Give me a thumbs up. I'm going to keep talking because I think it's running okay. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I want to start teaching again, and I'm starting now. What I haven't done in a lot of years is teach publicly because I have had problems with it. I've already been talking about that, so I'm not going to get into that. As long as you guys can hear me, what I want to do is just come back to teaching and pointing. And today's going to be what you guys would know if you follow KI, is a first dimension meditation. Just meditation. I want you to sit with me and feel a little bit, or experience a little bit of my um, my everyday experience, just being. I'm going to point to it. I want you to sit with me for that. Then at the end, you'll hear me talk a little bit about both the benefits of this kind of sitting and also the limitations. Just a little bit of talking at the end. And then I'm going to sit around here and wait for you guys to ask any questions. So I'm going to ask you not to ask questions while we're doing the meditation. If you have to, that's fine for any reason, but wait, please, and ask questions at the end because I want to sit and talk to you and answer questions about anything really, but this work mainly. And so, assuming that you can hear me, I'm going to start here soon. But I would like somebody to give me a thumbs up on that when you get here and people are coming in and out. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I think it's working. So when somebody comes in, they'll let me know. Here. Here's where I want to start because the nervous system is important. No matter what the function or purpose of meditation is, the nervous system has to be considered in this. And so I want to do something with you, and I want you to follow along before we start more meditation. It's just to take your one hand and grab your ear like this. See what I'm doing? And just kind of pull on your earlobe a little bit, like you're pulling it down, and putting a little bit of weight on that. Just one ear. Feel any sensations that come from that. We're not looking for anything particular. Just feel that. And I want you to notice your breathing for a moment. You're already breathing. So it's just bringing awareness to something that's already happening. And it's a gentle noticing because breath, unless you have some long issues of breathing, which you might not want to watch breath here, is easy to witness. It's easier than thoughts and feelings for some people. Let's start there. Just noticing something that's already happening naturally. Watching the rhythm of that breath. And for now, not forcing any particular breathing pattern other than what's natural for you. But I want you to close your mouth when you take breath in and just feel the breath coming in through your nose, into your airway, down past your lungs even, into where your diaphragm area is. And breathing almost from there each time, watching the breath come out of the mouth or the nose. So that's the pattern here. I want to show you how that relates to recognizing presence in a moment. So here's the exercise. You may still have your hand on your ear like this. This is kind of helpful if you've had a stressful day. So just do this with me. Put your hand on your ear and pull down a little bit. And just start watching the natural breathing pattern. But as you breathe in through the nose, you're going to follow that breath all the way down to the diaphragm. feeling the diaphragm inflate, watching that breath come out the nose or mouth each time. I want you to establish the noticing of that pattern for a second and stay anchored to that with each breath. If anyone's having trouble hearing me, there's a chat feature. I want to be responsive to technical problems, but not meditation questions. Those can come later. For now, just follow along as best you can. We're just watching the normal breathing pattern in through the nose. But as you follow breath, I want you to notice also that you can't follow breath without also being aware more in the inner body. Because to be aware of the breath brings awareness there each time. And that's an important part of this. So please notice that too. Just noticing not only the so-called inner body, but the sensations that you feel as you breathe through or around certain sensations. It's helpful in meditation to ground yourself in and through the body before you really begin. Otherwise, the meditation can be too heady or too safe in KI terms. We're just breathing to feel and be aware in the inner body, and everything that we encounter as we breathe into the body is allowed to be. There may be uncomfortable situations or sensations, maybe situations, or thoughts that are disturbing or intrusive as we breathe. The best I can say with that is let those be intrusive. We don't fight our experience in this kind of meditation. We just notice our experience and bringing awareness to it itself, if it's a gentle noticing, is good. Just gentle noticing of any intrusive thoughts. The less you fight them, the more they just can be allowed. The less you fight them, the more they can be just noticed. Fighting them means trying to do something with them. Noticing them is much gentler. Resisting a sensation in which there's already resistance adds resistance, but allowing a sensation that's where there's resistance brings acceptance to it. And allowing just means being with, noticing, not trying to change or fix or get rid of anything. Just coming back to breath from time to time, that same noticing pattern where you just breathe in through the nose, breathe all the way down into the stomach, and then out the nose or mouth. But along the way, you may feel something or see thoughts. Just noticing is enough. So this is a first dimension meditation, which means we're not doing inquiry. We're not prompting anything up, like trauma or repression. That's not what we do in meditation, this kind. So we're just letting things be as they are first. And I want you to continue to come back to noticing breath as I talk, but just kind of listen to me from the felt sense of presence that you may notice more the more you watch the breath. It's not something you can think about, but by watching the breath, there just may be more recognition that there's awareness here and that you can listen more from that. Just being, the felt sense of being, if that's a better word for you. By bringing attention down into the body, you take attention away from the conscious mind, at least. By bringing attention to breath, you withdraw attention from the intrusive thoughts. But when the intrusive thoughts are seen, you don't want to turn away from them. You just notice them. And the more you allow them, the better, actually. Because we don't want to just watch breath. We want to see. So if something comes up, we allow. Just notice. If a thought comes up, which is either words or an image, just noticing it seems to slow it down, although you're not really slowing it down. You're just becoming conscious in that moment of like words that are there that you hear. And by just noticing them, that's enough. But, or a picture, just noticing is enough. That's the beauty of first dimension, just being and allowing whatever is here. However, you can also welcome. And that actually helps. I'll explain. If you have some energy right now, or a thought or something that feels like you're resisting, you are. And we'll talk to you about that, why, when you do this work. But for now, with that resistance, think of it this way, or look at it this way. Like you're coaxing an animal out of a forest who's like shy or reluctant to be seen. But the animal is like this thought, words or picture or something that it's kind of hiding, and there may be energy on it. If you notice something like that, see, at some level, the emotional repression is creating that, and then there's resistance to it. We don't have to deal with that now, but you should know. For now, welcome that. Like an animal that you're coaxing out of the forest. It's like you're the open field of awareness, and there's a thought there that you're resisting, so you just welcome it like you would welcome an animal towards you with an openness, gentleness. See, that animal doesn't want to come into the field if you're going to resist it. If you're just going to stare at it, see? It's not just always about being with something. Sometimes you have to remember that we're in resistance at a deeply unconscious level. So some thoughts have to be welcomed, like they're lost children or an animal. And by welcoming them, you reduce the resistance there. It's just a matter of welcoming, like, come on, it's okay. And being open and really being like the field of awareness there, because you are. So welcoming is healthy, always. Just welcome whatever you see. Become curious about it. Bring it closer to you if you're resisting it. How will that release its resistance if you're scared of it? See that? Welcoming is loving. So let those words come closer, or repeat them again and welcome them, or that feeling, or sensation. And you can even say to any sensation where there's resistance, or to a stubborn thought, you can, in awareness, you can look at it and just say, thank you for arising. Even if you don't mean it, it doesn't matter. It's spiritual practice. Thank you for arising. I love you. You're welcome to stay. Repeat that. You can say it to anything where there's resistance. It's helpful. Thank you for arising. I love you. You're welcome to stay. We were never told that as kids. I'm going to tell you how trauma is driving everything if you don't know it. We have to start loving what's arising. So when you say that, it's like loving that, like being open to that, to see it, even if you don't mean it, and to allow it. But if not that phrase, just have that welcoming. You are the awareness. It's just being what you are and welcoming all that you see. And if something is uncomfortable, the more that we resist it, the worse it feels sometimes. So it's okay to welcome, because we are resisting it. there's also this quality of presence which doesn't have to do anything. It's helpful to welcome like that. And so I encourage that. I'll just sit here for a moment. I'm going to talk to you about the other side of this in a moment, which is recognizing presence as what you really are, and not just using meditation to feel safer or better, but to go deeper. But before we get there, I just want to sit with you in some silence, allowing you to welcome, not you, the separate self, but I'm always talking to what you are. You welcome everything in your experience and using the instructions I just gave. And again, if you're asking questions, you can ask them now and I'll answer all of them at the end. We'll do a question and answer. But for now, it's just silence and meditation. One of the things I can just throw in here is that if something just immediately comes up, you're better off immediately noticing it. Because there's unconsciousness when you don't notice something that's painful. That kind of makes it more painful. So if something comes up, you're better off just turning towards it and being curious than you are turning away from it. There's science behind that, and that's the basis of our work. But for now, I'm just saying if it's anything that seems uncomfortable, that you're not addressing, like a conversation that happened, I don't know, an hour ago with someone or a week ago, turn towards that animal and whatever you notice there about that, whether it's a feeling that lingers as you see that person or that memory, welcome that too. Because by turning away from something that's already there, it leaves it there, the resistance. When we resist something, it persists. Turning towards it brings acceptance to it. Just noticing it actually brings awareness and therefore acceptance to it. Stay with it. Stay aware of what you're seeing, words, images about that situation. You're bringing awareness to that and staying there with it, along with any feelings, and just letting that be as it is. Not trying to fix it, change it, get rid of it, inquire into it, neutralize it, anything. Just letting it be as it is, but bringing awareness to it so it doesn't just sit out here in consciousness, sort of not really repressed, but unconscious. The conversation that you had, bring awareness to that. Just allow the feelings and thoughts there. Awareness is powerful. It's like a light. You shine it on something, you allow it. And you are that awareness, so you just simply bring something into what you are, and then that's it. Let it be. before we start to talk about awareness and sitting in meditation for something more than regulating the system or just feeling more expansive or okay for a moment. And I would say if you're not feeling okay right now, if go back to the beginning and just listen and sit and watch your breath more. If you're not feeling just sort of grounded here with me in present moment awareness more, if that's not your experience, turn this off a little bit because we're going to talk about a few things that, you may or may not want to hear. I want to talk about recognizing presence as what we are, as the ground of our experience, inescapably. So there's no way around it, but we just don't recognize it until we do. Once it's recognized, it can't really be unseen, but you can see by just setting that the nervous system produces all sorts of things, and if you don't bring awareness to those things, they continue to rise. And so one of the greatest practices is that throughout the day is just to be and notice being, and then just letting whatever comes be as it is. Just like that. Just like we were doing here throughout the day. Let's talk about, though, that's about something more than just letting things be. So if you just sit with me and come back to your breath for a moment, just to anchor so that anything that I've said doesn't take you into your head too much. Back to whatever portal that you use, so to speak, to just come back to being and noticing being, so to speak. Simple present moment awareness, noticing what arises, what words, pictures, feelings, sensations appear. In the moment, if you anchor with your breath for a moment, just go back to that. Watching the breath, watching how you follow it down to the body. This is a simple way, I think, to begin talking about presence, recognition. As you anchor to your breath, that's not it. That's just watching your breath. But watch it for a second. The breath is not what we're talking about. But the breath is empty. So as you watch it, I just want you to notice how it's hard to think about something. I mean, you can, but it's hard to just start thinking and also watch the breath completely. Just notice that for a moment. And also notice that because the breath is empty, whatever's looking at it has nothing to see. There's nothing really there. I mean, you could call it breath, but that's just a word, see? So the word goes away, and then we don't really know what we're doing. And I could say, well, we're resting as awareness. Just let those words go away, because that doesn't mean anything. Just be. And notice that whatever you're looking at, it doesn't give you anything. It's like there's no content there. You might see an outline of a body or something or feel a sensation, but it's not really, no words or pictures really. No mind, just breath, but we don't even have to call it that. Stay with that for a moment. And just notice what it would be like if how you lived your life would just be it would just be an empty awareness. I mean, here you've got breath there, so it's not quite that, but just notice what it would be like if you didn't have to think a lot and you're just sort of enjoying this kind of empty space. I mean, there's nothing there to enjoy. It's just empty. And then just notice, like, well, if it's, what if I'm watching something and it's empty, there's no content really there, then where are the boundaries for that? What am I looking at here or looking from? If you follow the breath, do you see borders or boundaries for the breath? I mean, if you do, isn't that just the mind with a mental impression that you could just notice and see that for what it is? But instead, if it's just breath, there's no content there. Well, you get a glimpse for a moment of what it's like just to be without all that. Now, your body might have some things to say about this. That's our work. We'll get to that in a moment. But just noticing breath and how there's no content there. And where's the boundary for the breath? So can't you just then don't pretend like there's a boundary for the breath and see that the breath is endless. It's actually just pointing you to space. And you just maybe didn't pay attention. But if you take your attention off the breath, there's just space here because breath is space. And there's no boundaries for space. Sit with that. If you start thinking about it, just notice the thoughts. Because you can't see this through thinking. Just notice those thoughts in the space. And if a feeling or sensation comes up, it's still happening in that space. You can't define it, the space, but you can notice that things arise to it. And if it's really quiet, you don't even have to do that. And for a while, if it's busy, why not just come back to the breath for a second? Just do that. You don't have to think about anything that I just said. If it gets your mind busy, just come back to breath. Simple. And we'll go back to that in a second. For those of you who are exploring boundarylessness for a second, close your eyes if they aren't already. If you notice a more boundarylessness to your experience, it's okay if it's not complete non-dual realization. We're not doing the perfection thing. We're just direct experience. If there's space here, we're just exploring it now. What is that? It doesn't seem to have any boundaries or borders. If it does, it's just thinking again coming up. That's all. Thinking in the space. Can you notice it? Just treat it for what it is. It's thinking. Words, pictures. They're not going to show you the space. So you just let them be as they are. And then as the thoughts fall away or you notice them, come back to what's the space. You can't think about that. You could come back to breath, to anchoring you to noticing it, but you can't think about it. If you think about it, you just notice the thoughts. If you feel something about it, you just let the feeling be, because that feeling's not going to get you to the awareness. It's happening in it. There's nothing to understand about it. It's just there, allowed in the space. And if you treat every thought that way, just something to notice within the space. And even if you don't notice thoughts, why does that have to be a big deal? Can't you just notice that you didn't notice thoughts? That doesn't disturb the space. To be thinking for a moment. All it does is it adds something to the space, like a line of thinking. But if you come back to breath, and you just stop or notice the thoughts, well, you never left the recognition of presence. You just told yourself a story that you did. But if you notice that you can't leave the space and you can't seek it, you're it. Don't think about that. Because if you think about that, that's just another thought in it. not going to get you there. But it's okay that it comes up. Just let it be, whatever it is. If you're feeling resistance to what I'm saying, that's just that animal in the forest. That's all that is. It's a thought and some programming and an energy around it. And what do you do with something like that? You welcome that. Just like I said, you just welcome that, because anything else is madness when you're resting as awareness. To resist what's already being resisted doesn't make any sense. So you turn towards that and you just welcome that. If there's something that's just out there that feels like it doesn't want to be included, you just include it by turning towards it. Letting that be then. So recognizing awareness can never ever be known through any single thought, no matter how profound. And if you know that, then you don't try to understand it. And if you do, you just notice the thought. So let's talk about that. Let's do a little bit beyond inquiry into, or beyond meditation, into a little bit of investigation into what am I? If this awareness is what I am, how can I really know it in direct experience? Well, okay, so with a little bit of inquiry, I kind of lied to you. I said we're going to do first dimension, and I'm sneaking in some second dimension inquiry for those of you who know. But it might help with the first dimension, the awareness piece. So here's your question. And whatever comes up, I want you just to notice it and do absolutely nothing with it, other than at the most welcome it, like the animal in the forest, and that's it. Nothing else. And notice it immediately when it comes up. And no matter what the content, just welcome, welcome, welcome. You ready? Okay. We're just being here, letting everything be. And the question is, what is this that's looking? Or what is this that's aware? And then something comes up, sensation, feeling, thought, words, turn right towards it with the actual awareness that can see, and let that be. Whatever's arising, that's not it. That's not it. That's, okay, let's show it to you though. So if it's words, I want you to ask this. If you hear words, or if you see something in awareness, sensation, anything, here's your inquiry. Is awareness those words, or is awareness that which is looking at them? Is awareness this image that I'm seeing, or is awareness what's looking at it? And then you have to go to experience and see. Look and see. It's not answered by the mind, really. It's a seeing. And if you see that you're what's looking, then your job is easier, because then you don't have to do anything with what you're seeing. You don't have to even understand what you're seeing, because that's not you. That's something appearing in you, trying to describe you. Let that be. Because nothing can describe you. Or everything describes you, but you are you. You're the awareness. So you stand as that. Okay, so what is this that's looking? Or what is this awareness? This is prompting the mind up for good reason, because there's beliefs and programming around it. So what is this? And then something comes up, immediately notice it. That's not it. That's not what's looking. That's something that's appearing, so you let that be what it is. Even if it's like awareness, that's not it. It's a word. Or it's what I am. That's not you. Those are words. Be you. Be yourself. Be what you are. What's looking. And just stand as that. Welcome. if you need to, if there's resistance, but stand and be and allow, no matter what it is. And stay with something for as long as it's there, because when a thought stays around, it means there's energy on it, and that's emotional repression in your body. We'll show it to you later how to work with that. But for now, to allow a thought fully when you have emotional repression, contraction, is a good thing, because you're not resisting what's already being resisted by the unconscious. I'll explain it later. For now, just allow everything. And when you see something in awareness, continue allowing it if you're in meditation until it dissolves. The thought or feeling, thought, words, pictures, feeling. Sensations won't dissolve completely. That's the emotional repression. Contraction, chronic pain, probably won't dissolve completely. That's our work, the deeper work, the root of suffering work. This is just allowing what is. And when you're allowing what is, when something's stuck out there, just continue allowing it until it dissolves, leaving the awareness that remains. See how important that is? To see that even this thought that wants to hang out here, if I welcome it and I continue welcoming it and being interested in the falling away of it, then what is remaining is the awareness that's looking. And it helps with that recognition. And just while we sit here, treat everything that way that comes up. Let me go back to this inquiry of this awareness, whatever we are, we're trying to find out what that is through experience. So what is this awareness that's looking? And that prompts the mind or something to come up. Immediately notice and allow. And if it's something there's a lot of resistance to, the more you welcome, the better, because the resistance is coming from body contraction, trauma and emotional repression that's hidden in the body and that's producing all of this. But we can't get to it in meditation. But what we can do is just allow fully and become educated about trauma. Just allow everything. Because it's important to see that even if we have trauma or repression, what we are, everything comes and goes to what we are. That's the point. And that we are this awakeness, awareness. So one more time here. What is it that's looking? What is this? Something comes up. That becomes an object in awareness then. That's not you. So if it feels sticky, another thing you can say is, are these words the actual awareness, or is it what's looking? Or whatever's arising. Is this the awareness is what's arising the awareness, or is it what's looking? You want to allow the contraction too. Any sensations that are there with that, that's where the repression is hidden. So bringing that into awareness and allowing that as much as possible is helpful, because it's connected to that. And then, so that's enough inquiry. Let's just come back to, you can continue that inquiry if you want, but for those of you who just came for meditation, let's come back to just watching the breath here for a moment. And I will answer your questions in a second, I promise. Not a second. But just watching the breath, because I want to talk to you again and point again. As you come back to the breath, because we were doing a little bit of inquiry, it's good to anchor back to awareness when you're not doing inquiry, especially if you're sitting in meditation and you do it for a second. Come back, anchor to moment in the moment to your breath. See that the breath is empty again. I want to show you something about that emptiness. your body may be full of sensations that don't feel empty, right? There may be suffering that comes up that doesn't feel empty. Allow that is the sanity, is just allow whatever is here. Trust me, there's science behind it. Allow it, whatever you see. But watch your breath a moment again to see the emptiness of the breath and to give you nothing to think about for a moment. Just be. Or maybe you can just rest as awareness without much thought, consciously. And I actually want to use some imagery that's, I don't know, hopefully helpful. This is actually somebody from, I don't do it as well as he, somebody that studied from under me, and he came up with this, and I think it's kind of nice. But just imagine for a second that you have to use your imagination for a moment. And for those of you who are really sitting in presence right now, tune me out on this. If you're really noticing it, you don't need this. It's for the people who aren't grounded as much right now in just the presence that's here, already here. For those people who your mind is a little bit active, you can actually use it a bit to imagine like you're being shot up into outer space. And you're just sitting there in formless space. And, there might be some planets or stars or something. But that's not what you are. You're just this quiet, empty, and everywhere you turn, even if it's an image for now of outer space for now, everywhere you turn is just nothing but what you are. And it's inescapable. You can use the image of being in outer space. Just don't imagine yourself. Imagine that you're what's looking at that outer space. You're just looking. And at the same time, you notice that as you breathe into the body, that same spaciousness is within you. You can feel it. And for a moment, it might maybe even seem like the inside and outside are one. We're just talking about space. And with your eyes closed, you don't have to imagine a body for a moment. You can just notice the space. And you can even let any images now of planets or whatever else go away. And just be with the actual space that's already here. It's the same space. Back down in your chair, sitting here listening to Scott Killaby, the same experience out in outer space is right here. It's all one. You don't have to go anywhere to recognize what you are if you pay attention. And just notice that with your eyes closed here, sitting in your chair, there's not much more happening here. There may be some light coming through, just like a planet would come through with some light, very similar. And there's a sensation there, but there's space around it and maybe even through it. And all that can just be there. Now maybe some thoughts come up, but they're just like little asteroids or planets or space debris. Some days there's a lot of space debris. Some days it's quiet. But none of that is you. Until you can allow it all. See if you can sit here and notice that you're this that's just awake and that doesn't have any boundaries, ultimately. And even if it seems like there really is a person here, isn't the image of the person sitting here in the space? Have you looked at that yet? Aren't you just looking at another planet, but it's really close? We call it a body. Okay, but is that you, or are you looking at it? Is the sensation you, or are you looking at it? And what are you? And by the way, can't everything just be allowed then? If you kind of sense that you are that awareness more, can't just everything be then as it is? Why would space want to change things? Why would emptiness want to get rid of forms? Emptiness, presence doesn't have that agenda. What you are doesn't have that agenda. Just being. Maybe thoughts come up that say, hold on, this isn't it. It was a great exercise. I got a life to go to. This isn't it. Well, that's just because you didn't turn to that thought. Turn towards it. This isn't it. You're right. That thought is not the space. You thought it was. You got mistake. You just got you know how it is. We got lost for a second. You thought, oh my gosh, I've lost it. But you didn't. Because if I tell you to look at that thought that doubts what you are, isn't that appearing in what you are? If you'll turn towards it. But if you don't, then yeah, you'll believe you've lost what you are. See? Turning towards whatever you see reaffirms what you are. Turning away from it, that's repression and suppression. Confirms your unconsciousness and invites more suffering. So just sit and now notice and allow it all. You don't have to see everything. Just whatever arises, let that be. You don't have to go digging right now. The thought that says you're not there yet or that this isn't enough is appearing to you, if you'll notice. Great question. I'm going to answer that in a second. Thank you. For now, Spaghetti, can you define derealization in your own terms before I talk about it later? Because here's how I want to wind down this meditation, or this seeing, or exercise, into a question and answer, is that you can take this kind of seeing into your life, obviously, and come back and I'm going to do it more. What I want you to take away is this, that even though meditation and we teachers point to presence like this and say things like the awareness remains undisturbed or it doesn't have an agenda and everything can be allowed, everything cannot be allowed. The buried emotions cannot be allowed. They don't arise to awareness. That's the bypass. And it's big. And I invite you to keep sitting with me in meditation. I'm going to show you the benefits of it and awareness, all that, and the limitations to it. And because what we've seen here is people can meditate for years and they don't get to the root of suffering. And so they just keep meditating. But when you get to the root of suffering, the stuff can stop arising because you're getting to the root. So as I start teaching here on YouTube, I'm going to bring everybody along slowly at the right pace for them to show all this to you. It's going to be, I'm having a blast, you guys. I'm ready. I'm out here on YouTube. I want to answer your questions, and I want you to come back. If you enjoyed the meditation and you don't want question and answer, leave. Because just please leave for your own benefit, because you just enjoy the meditation. You don't have to talk here. And you don't want to get in your head, don't. Thank you, Spaghetti. I appreciate that. I'm going to answer the questions in order. I have to have my glasses on. Couple of things first, now that we're just talking. What I'm going to do on YouTube, I've had my own kind of embodiment process. So what I did is I woke up to my own unconsciousness around how to teach, what I wanted to do. And the epiphany was I love non-dual teachings and first dimension stuff, which I often criticize. And but it's just because of humans and how we meditate and teach meditation to stay safe from buried stuff. That's all. It's not the non-dual traditions or the Eastern practices, it's the bypass. So I want to come back and, without identifying with it, of course, I don't, teach and help people for free because I'm doing okay. Enough, I'm okay. I can't charge on YouTube anyway. I don't want to. I want to teach. And I'll tell you this, is that what I really want to teach, what I really want to do is mentor. I want to mentor people in repression work, and that's what I'm going to do mostly. But I want to come here and teach in first and second dimension because I don't want to throw away 7 books that I wrote in first and second dimension just because we have a better modality. I want to help people where they are. So if any of you are coming and you're wondering, what is this guy talking about? I thought this was a meditation. Well, it is, but it's a new kind of meditation and teaching where after I sit with you, we're going to talk about the limitations of the practice and the benefits and the pointing and all that so that it's an actual teaching and people won't bypass. See, I was short-sighted because I thought with the development of 3D work that everybody would just come and get to the repression. And some people did. And I'll tell you this, the freedom that I'm experiencing and Dan McClintock and others who are doing 3D work is otherworldly freedom. That's not promotion, that's a fact for people who are doing it. But there's resistance to it because it's repression work. And I have tremendous compassion for resistance to repression because I lived in chronic pain for 28 years, choosing spiritual practices just like the one that we did to avoid the buried anger. So I have compassion, and that has infused my teaching to come back to you guys and go, I want to help. I want to meet you where you're at and show you what I saw and slowly take you at a pace that's safe for your nervous systems to show you what I saw. Because I don't think it's effective just to talk about 3D work, even though that's our secret sauce. So what Dan and I are going to do is we're going to come on YouTube. Just get ready for it. We're going to come on YouTube, and we're going to be ourselves, and we're going to trigger people. Not intentionally. It's just that there's 2 sides of what we're doing. One thing we're doing is we're talking about hot topics, but from a repression perspective, so that people will hear it and they'll hear what they might need to hear to get to the root of suffering, which is really important. And then the other part of it is are these kinds of videos where I just want to come back and help people. I'm not interested in fucking triggering you. I have no interest in that. I don't get anything out of it if it happens. Except maybe through the trigger, you might become open, and then you, just like me, because I was triggered into this work, you might become open. But that's not what we're doing. So we're here teaching now, and so it's free. So come to YouTube, invite your friend. It's a non-dual teaching. It's meditation. It's inquiry. It's not repression work here on YouTube. I'm going to invite you into that when you're ready for the embodiment or to get to the root of suffering, to end the suffering. But not everybody's ready. And I honor that because I think that every human has this sovereign space that isn't real. Because ultimately there's no boundaries or nobody has any sovereign space or free agency. It's all illusion, but it's not, because you and I all have this sacred sovereign space that is our experience, our direct experience. And your sacred space, you have to take care of that. And if Dan and I come out here and we start talking about practices and repression and all that, it's going to trigger a nervous system. And you're going to wonder, well, what do I do with that? What we're trying to do is show you that the triggers come from the repression too. So there's so much here, guys, for you if you'll start paying attention. I was going to apologize for not teaching for years, but I didn't want to. I don't apologize for things I don't want to do. But now I want to. I was talking for 8 years because we were developing the work. Okay, hey, Radical Bra. This whole thing about bra, what is that? I'm married to or with a 26-year-old guy, and he uses the bra. And that's a young generation thing, too. And I had to get used to that, hearing him and his friends use those words. Hey, bra. Radical bra. Do meditation before inquiry to get aware of inner body. Yes, 100%, because it's somatic inquiry. If you're doing our inquiry, if you're doing other inquiry, it can be disembodied. They might not even care about the root of suffering in the body. And so they might tell you, who cares about the body? That's what you have to watch out for, Radical Bra, because some of the teachers are in repression and they're teaching bypass, blah, blah, blah. So you have to really keep your awareness in your inner body and I think get to the root of suffering when it comes to repression or inquiry. That's all body. And if you don't have awareness in the body when you start, the inquiry takes you into these places that are safe to keep you safe from the buried stuff. That's how that trauma works. So always have awareness in the body, but also choose a modality, even if it's not KI, that truly gets to the unprocessed, the deepest fears. The best modalities will make that processing safe enough to do. And so you don't have to be, I don't know if you even need all this information, but the answer is yes. I would always say. Now I'll say this though, to be fair, if the meditation before inquiry to get aware, yeah, just resting as awareness. Like, okay, I'm going to answer it differently now. If you're someone who has the awareness recognition, like me or others here, you don't have to rest as awareness before inquiry because you live as that. And so you just go, and you look at something. But if you don't have a degree of awareness in your experience, it's really important and helpful to then ground yourself first before inquiry, because otherwise inquiry could be usurped by the mind that just wants to stay safe. So grounding yourself in the body is really good, and in awareness as awareness to do this work for that reason. Yeah. Even if you're just recognizing presence somehow in your inquiry, just present moment awareness, it's still important to anchor to the body, even though it's presence, because the body keeps the score and the body will keep producing these thoughts and things to kind of take you out of the, you know how it is. And so grounding in awareness in the body, I can't even think of a time not to do it in spiritual practice because there's so much bypassing. Okay, Matthew, am I gay? Let me explain it this way. Do you know the Kinsey report that Kinsey did, where they went around and asked people around their sexual orientation, and basically they discovered that, you should go read it if you haven't, that sexual orientation, I'm going to answer your question, I promise, but I have to answer it this way. Sexual orientation exists on a spectrum. So basically everybody is either, very few people, according to that report, are actually straight or gay. And that most people are bi. And I think that's actually true. So are you talking about, are you talking about reality? Are you talking about the fiction that people buy into around sexuality, the categories? Because the categories, yeah, I guess I could say I'm gay. I'm gay. But the spectrum is like, I'm open too. It's like I've had fantasies and, of men, women, and things like that. So, yes, mostly gay, but open. And hope that answers the question. I don't know what that has to do with inquiry, but don't have a problem with it. Well, unless you want to talk about repression. Matthew, are you gay? Are you gay, Matthew? No, don't have to answer that. Thank you for 29 saying great inquiry. Come back because I'm going to do it more often, do more things. There's a whole bunch of things I can show you guys that I just haven't done for years because I've been developing inquiry. Okay, Spaghetti, love this question. When you asked it, I was like, yeah, I guess I'll answer that. What the fuck is derealization? So, thank you. Hold on, let me read it. Life feels like normal, but my vision and perception of everything that goes on is like an autopilot dream. No emotions whatsoever. And it's kind of like a dream state that my inner mind is piloting. Okay, thank you. Because I'm sorry, I just want to feel that for a second. Spaghetti, because I don't want to project anything onto you, and I'm not. You have to understand that I've been a teacher for now 16 years. I've worked with so many people that were dissociated and that were coming to non-dual teachings. And I don't diagnose, and you don't even need that because you can trust your own body, but it sounds like dissociation. And we're doing some somatic testing now, which is going to be really cool. You guys just keep watching for it. We're going to bring out free tests to get people into a conversation about what's going on for them. And if this is dissociation, join that. It's all free. You take a test, you discover if there's programming that dissociates you from the body, from developmental or event trauma, repression. And then we're going to start sending you information all free through a newsletter. It's going to take a couple months to get this going. But we're just going to educate people regarding whatever their issue is and how it's connected to the trauma and the repression that we work on. The reason I say that is because I can't give an answer right now that just settles it all, and sometimes teachers are fucking full of shit, and it's mostly about experience and practice. And I don't want to give you the pithy answers that just sum it all up. I want to invite you into a process because if it's true, and I can't know until we work together or something like that, whether that's dissociation. It's just not enough words, although it's really helpful. But no emotions is generally complete repression. We call it a primary double bind like this. It's just KI language. Primary double bind just means a double bind. It's a dualistic opposite deep programming in our bodies. And it basically things like, I need to love, but I'm afraid. And so it's suffering, duality, but deeply held in the body programming. It's not stories. And so dissociation and no emotions is like deeply held duality, the kind of duality that never arises to awareness, but yet causes all the suffering in awareness. Because the duality there is an energetic one. It's like if I can't express any emotion, I don't have my natural resources online. So I can't get angry at the one end of the spectrum. That makes me feel powerless and maybe even like a victim, or I have to identify with deficiency stories because of just that side of the repression. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, which are the vulnerable emotions. So if I lived in a household in which none of that was safe, I'm going to feel powerless and helpless in other identities on that end of the spectrum too, as a double bind. And so there's suffering in that. And then if you come to spirituality, huge fucking caveat, seriously, to anybody with dissociation, this is my sigh that you heard. Like, because I've done my own trauma work and I have been a teacher and I owe just fucking huge apology. Excuse me. It's hot in here. To people like you who may have had dissociation, if that's what it is, and then you were coming to us, and I wasn't a trauma-informed teacher, and I warn you of people out there, I'm telling you, because it'll make your dissociation worse. If you see what we're doing in spirituality, and I don't know if you are, so I don't want to go off on this rant until Spaghetti tells me whether she's involved in spirituality, and I'm not going to condemn you, because I was a teacher of this bypass. I'm going to help you, but I don't want to go off on a rant unless you tell me you have that maybe dissociation and you're interested in awareness teachings or Eastern practices, and then I'll go off on my rant. Not against you though, because we're innocent. This is repression. I want to help you with it. Don't you love my crazy, I need a haircut look? Okay, JCat, words, define them. What do you mean by conduit? For what? It's too general. I don't know how to answer it. I don't care what you think, Saab. I'm not depressed. Keep your shit to yourself and own your emotions. But thanks for listening. KKNKKKNK1. Is it possible repression sabotages awareness recognition? Yes. Oh my God. This is the $1 million question tonight. Seriously. This is it. Thank you. This is why. Sorry I was rude to the last person, but I used to be a people pleaser. And when people would shadow shit onto me, I used to sit there and store my anger and get sick. So you're going to be rude and shadow stuff. I'm going to do it right back and tell you what I think about that. Because people should own their shit. They just shouldn't, but other people should speak up and let them know. Because you didn't even ask me if I was depressed. You just projected shit onto me, and that's what causes suffering. Okay, here we go. I have to answer that, and then I want to go back to Spaghetti, because Spaghetti, you're working hard to help me understand your situation. And I want to come back to that. But you didn't answer the dissociation piece, so go Google it if you're not sure and see if it fits. And then if you could tell me, unless you answered it and I missed it, let's see here. Okay, that's more information. Thank you. Spaghetti, can you give me more on what, if that feels like what it is? Like you can't feel into your body. It feels like people with sexual trauma, for example, if that's there, had to escape their bodies to survive it. And then there's a pattern that can repeats itself. So I ask you, if you come to spiritual practices, the dissociation is still playing out. And if I know that it's that, or I think it is that, I can help you a lot. But I don't like to jump to conclusions and project, how I feel about that. I'm asking questions instead. Okay. Let's see. Going back here, waiting for Spaghetti. Oh my gosh, KKN, thank you. Here's the question. Is it possible repression sabotages awareness recognition? That's what sabotages awareness recognition. That's what it is. And as a teacher through the years, I didn't know it. And so when people would come and they couldn't recognize it, what I would do is I would keep pointing to it. And it created this sort of efforting in people where they were efforting to recognize it. And then I would say, well, if the efforting comes up, just let that be. But the pointing, without recognizing how the repression played into it, created all of that, including the teaching that responded to the sabotage. It's all a trauma bond. It's in spirituality. Does that make sense? It's innocent because we don't know we're doing it, but that doesn't mean it's okay. It's just innocent and unconscious. But yes, that's what sabotage, that's the bypass. Repression, if you look at science, drives everything, trying to keep us safe. So that's what it is. Yeah. Exactly. You notice that a lot of reasons you want to shift is due to not being able to be yourself. That's it. Oh my God, I wish I could just see that right there is what we're trying to say to people who are innocently interested in awakening, which is a really good thing to be interested in. But what's driving it? And also what's driving the teachers if they're not getting to the repression that creates the suffering? But KKN, if I can just say this, the authentic self thing is confusing too with awareness recognition, because we just did that no boundary thing. And like when you really experience that no boundariness and then somebody starts talking about authentic self, it feels like we're just coming back to identification. But we're not. We're talking about the presence as what we authentically are. And then the repression sabotages that to stay safe and get love, which just means survive, procreate. We have to, as a species, stay safe, get love, survive, procreate. That's science. So it has to sabotage the recognition of what we are for those reasons. It's all doing what it's supposed to do, is keep us, well, what it thinks, but it's a sabotage on the spiritual path. But here's the thing, you can change that. It's all a bypass. So The problem with the spiritual teachings and the stuff that I was doing is that it wasn't acknowledging this, right? So if you bring this into your spiritual practice because you have a clear understanding now and you wrote it out, it couldn't even be written more clearly, then your context can change. Because these teachers who say, well, if you just meditate or we rest as awareness, we're going to awaken and embody what we are. But our experience is something different. So why not bring that into your context? That's what we're doing with KI. We're saying that, yeah, you're the awareness ultimately, but as long as there's repression, it's going to produce these identities for safety and shadows and pain and addiction and cheating on my husband and whatever else I can do to stay safe and get love. So the repression has to be taken care of, not just because of the sabotage on the awareness recognition, because that's the root of suffering. Okay, I see. You're kind of religious, but spirituality is something you feel connected to. It's a good thing. I'm totally understand that. But spaghetti, you're in the room with someone like KKN, and so as you get involved in spirituality or us, pay attention to this other subject because you're connected to spirituality for a reason. You want to discover what you are. But what KKN is saying is that they, or he or she, went on the same path. What I'm saying is we became interested in spirituality, but didn't recognize that we had the trauma that drove us to it. So why can't we just have spirituality in our lives or awareness in a way that isn't avoidant of our trauma? And if we include that in our context, that's part of the practice. Like, I don't want to be free. I don't want to recognize awareness. My conditioning demands safety. Once you understand that, then you can do something about it. Instead of just telling ourselves, I want to awaken and be free, because it isn't true. It's what we tell ourselves in the conscious level, but at the unconscious level, it's repression. Stay safe, get love. Hmm. Thank you, Spaghetti. A lot more information. Andrew, I don't know what you mean by that. Love those boundaries. Did you mean the boundarylessness part? Okay, guys, if you're not going to ask any more questions or dialogue, I'll get off here. So go ahead and ask if you want. I'll say a few more things. Mainly, I just want to invite people back. These shorts that I'm doing and that Dan is doing are not the teaching. it's it's not the teaching. It's a message, an expression that's separate from the work. And I don't want anybody to ever be confused about that. Or you can be, but I don't want to contribute to that confusion by not being clear that what we say on those shorts are just snippets of information that we discovered because we did deep somatic work. It's not the kind of insights that you throw at people and then they just get them and then now they're free. So it's really, those shorts are about triggering a conversation and triggering something within us that may be avoiding something, and that's all. So I invite you guys to come back and let's do this again. Actual practice, meditation, inquiry here on YouTube. And I'll do this. I don't know how often. I'm starting this while I'm taking a hiatus on my podcast. Okay, so if there's not going to be any other questions, I'm just going to go through what Spaghetti's saying and answer some things and jump off. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you, Spaghetti. You definitely feel dissociated. Here we go. I get to say this now. Okay, whoever said that repression drives the sabotaging of the awareness recognition is talking to you too by saying that when we have repression, and dissociation is repression. So dissociation is buried emotions that are so scary that we then also have conditioning that says, I can't even be in my body. Some people. So if we get drawn to awareness or even meditation or awareness practices, spirituality, we could be run on a mechanism that's buried, which is basically it's producing suffering. And this part of the suffering is the sabotage. But it's sabotage, but what it really is safety. So those buried emotions that are involved in the dissociation, that conditioning will produce more suffering, including a sabotage potentially of the awareness recognition. But even if you have the awareness recognition, then you have awareness and dissociation, awareness and repression, which everybody has usually when they awaken to awareness because the embodiment process hasn't happened. But with dissociation, there's an extra risk that you're so disconnected from the body that the awareness, this is true for everyone with repression, long-term practitioners, meditators, spiritual seekers, finders, that if you get too focused on just recognizing presence or with dissociation or repression, you go into another form of a bypass, which is a real deep or my body connection, disconnect. So basically you bury the emotions through spiritual practice, further bury them, further dissociate. If you don't get involved with a teaching or a practice that's fully embodied, then the spirituality gets usurped by the trauma, and that can go in bad places. There can be more suffering, a lot more. Recognizing the awareness when you have a lot of repression and dissociation can lead to states of stuck in emptiness, even dark night of the soul, because you've got so much trauma there that's hiding. But I say that to everybody, like, be careful with this stuff. You know, I got 2 diseases after just making the awareness recognition important. And because we don't understand the trauma, or we didn't. Okay, guys, pleasure to be with you. I'm going to be back. I'll probably announce it when I'm coming back, like I did today. But I really should set a time for this. So if you're here or you're watching, chances are I may do it next Sunday at, what did I do? 5 p.m. Pacific. And so if I announce another time, I announce another time. But try 5 p.m. Pacific, and then I'm going to actually teach and bring everybody along some really good meditations, hopefully, and then some inquiry more and more as we go, deeper than what we did today. Bye, guys.